If you had seen my last video where I balanced a light camera on a Weebill S gimbal, I managed to do that by using a small rig cage to adjust the center of gravity of the camera. This time around, I'm going to show you how I used a Weebill S gimbal to balance a smartphone, a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. The first part of the video shows how difficult it is to balance a smartphone on your Weebill why is it so difficult to pronounce this name, on your Weebill S gimbal. The second part is where I add additional weights to adjust it, and find that even though I had reduced the motor to low power, it still couldn't balance. And finally, in the end, I managed it by adding additional weights. My Samsung is only 200 grams. The smartphone holder, and the weights to balance it weighed 655 grams. If the weight of the smartphone is not included, the balance is 451 grams. The weights and the washers was 427 grams. My camera weighed 377 grams. The camera plus the small rig cage was 528 grams. So I'm trying to see if I can fit a smartphone into the gimbal, my Weebill S gimbal. Okay, it's not easy, but I think this is too light. Let's have a look. Let's center that. Okay, this thing is a bit flimsy because sometimes the thing can still move when it's locked, so I'm a bit annoyed by it. Now let's lock this and see if we can adjust. It looks okay. Looks like it's balanced, but let's see when you switch it on. It works nicely. It's vibrating. See, that is the problem, because either the camera is too light. If I hold it down, it stops, right? No, either the camera is too light, or I've already reduced the motor strength. It's on the low side. Okay, now let's see if we can rebalance this with some weights. Okay, now I am going to undo this, and let's see. This can be a real pain to do. If you're changing from camera to smartphone and back to camera, these jigs are a real pain to use unless you have some spare. Okay, now this is too short, too small for me. So now I have to undo this because the screw is here, and that's a weakness of this design. You keep unscrewing, but it's still there. It hasn't moved to the screw part, and this width of this smooth part is the width of this. So you have to screw it in before you can move it around, which is, I think, a very irritating design. It may be convenient for them, but it's not convenient for me. Now I'm going to use a longer one because I'm going to use two weights. These are the two weights I'm going to use. If you remember, last time I showed you that actually the weights came from here. The weights came from my stabilizer. It's a $10 stabilizer, which I found was a waste of money because it didn't really do any stabilization. So let's screw this in all the way. Quite irritating, isn't it, to do all this. It's one thing if you set it up and that's it, you're never going to change it. It's a different story. But if you're going to keep changing cameras, it becomes a big problem. Now if I put this in, the two weights, and see if I can screw it in. Oh, be careful, can you see? This screw is coming through, so this piece is bulging up already. So I have to put some washers. I solved that by putting some washers. I think 3 or 4 washers. I could put one more if I find. I don't know where I left the other washers. Okay, never mind. Okay, now the problem is when this guy is mounted here, I'm looking at here in this direction. Actually, I want it this direction or this direction. I want it this direction, right? So I have to add one more washer. I thought I had all 4 here. Seem to have misplaced one of them. That's my packet of washers. Okay. Okay, so it's facing this way now, so I put it there like this. Okay, let me screw this in. I tell you, whoever designed this never thought he was going to make something easy for people to use. Okay, I've got one screw in. Now I have to put the other screw in. Okay. So let me center this somewhere. Move this to the center. Okay. You can always adjust it later, but for the time being, we center it so that we can move it forward or backward later on. Okay, so now this is how it looks, and I can now mount it back onto my Weebill S. Let's put the phone back in. See, it's supposed to be locked, but it can still move. That's a real stupid design. Now let's lock that in. Okay, I've got it balanced. You can see. Wherever I want to move, it stays. Now let's switch it on. It's vibrating. Upon switching on, it's vibrating. So something is. So now I have to adjust it so that let's do one more thing, and that is to put an additional weight. I put it here where the lens holder is. I tried putting the weight here, but I tried putting an additional weight here, but it wasn't as effective. So now let's bring this up. See, it's not holding it. Either it's a faulty design or it's an imitation, not the original Weebill, but an imitation Weebill. I am so sick of this problem. Now let's bring this up a bit. Now it slipped again. I don't know what to do. If I move it all the way up, see, we know the center of gravity is above this. So stupid, this design. I'm so sick of watching the thing slide right in front of my eyes. See, sometimes I think it's not worth all the effort I'm struggling with. It's a useless device. Like I've balanced it properly, but there is some fine adjustment that I have to get right. It's not perfectly right yet, but let's switch it on. Okay, I switched it on. Can you see how nice? There is a slight vibration. I just wanted to show that none of the axes are locked, right? They're all moving. If I go too far, there is a slight vibration. Okay, that's because my balancing is not there yet. It is slightly off and it's giving this problem, but most of the time I can use it. So on some days I get spot on. I don't have any problem. There's no vibration at all from the gimbal. Some days I can't get it spot on and there is some vibration. I assume it's not perfectly balanced. That's why it's giving some slight vibration. Marginal vibration, marginal amount of vibration, but at a different extreme angles. It's wonderful, isn't it, that I've managed to do it on a gimbal, the smartphone. That means I only need to have one gimbal for both my smartphone and for my camera. Okay, it's a bit tedious. I save a lot of money. Okay, it's a bit tedious to adjust the balancing of the smartphone, but I save a lot of money. It depends on my situation, whether I need to take the smartphone or I take the camera. I raised the smartphone a little bit higher so that I could try and adjust and make it move smoothly. Can you see how smooth it is now? And all three axes can move. You can see the gimbal being rotated all around, left, right, up, down, sideways, and there's no problem. There's almost no vibration. It's minor, just very little. If I adjust the balance again, I could get it to a position where there's no vibration at all. And this is what something that we will Zhiyun have to look into. This was my first attempt at using the gimbal without enough weights for my handphone. I took this video after I balanced the smartphone on the gimbal perfectly, and you can see that my hands are a little bit shaky and the gimbal cannot actually compensate for my shaky hands. They are really badly shaky, but it's far better than without any gimbal. Actually, the Zhiyun Weebill S is a fantastic gimbal, but for the price I paid about 270 US, that's 1080 ringgit. I was disappointed that part of it was a flimsy design. The locking mechanism, one of that kept failing, and the weight could slide all over, the camera could slide all over the place. If they go and fix it, in my next video I will show you all the other problems I faced with gimbals. But if the gimbal manufacturers will come out with a better design, it's worth the 1000 ringgit, 270 US dollars is worth it. But now I am disappointed, really upset that I spent so much money on something that doesn't work properly. Let me know whether I'm right or wrong.